All right, and hello everybody. I think I am live in Zoom and I think I'm live in Facebook. It's hard to know really these days. Let's see, I'm just gonna add everybody. All right, hope you all are doing well. Hope you're having a nice evening. Nice to see you. So, all right, this evening Circle of Light meditation, as you know. Here we are. I haven't been here for a few, or at least I wasn't here last week because I was in Florida. Um, and so much is going on, you know. I've been sharing pretty openly, taking the gloves off about my opinions of this insanity and what's going on. Hi. And speaking up, standing up, um, knowing that, yes, we're in this age of awakening, and yes, there's a lot of hope, but we're seeing the darkness, the controls, and it's really important that we speak up and say no. That we do not consent to being controlled, that we do not consent to being to segmenting the population off in the form of medical apartheid and a form of segregation. This is more important than ever. Very important time. So I just want to say that because if you are thinking something's rotten in Denmark, that's because it is, and we need you to speak up. But the thing, so I never know what I'm going to do these meditations on, and I always just kind of come up with them on the spur of the moment. And what happened this morning with a client in a past life regression that I guided her in, it gave me information about what I wanted to talk about this evening. And the reason I want to talk about this is not just because, it happened this morning, but it's also in a greater context of what's happening in the planet. And a lot of people, most humans are still in a state of slumber, not awakened, which basically means, as most of you know, many of you know, that you see through the illusions of the mind control, of the programming, which is really right now all about fear. And when you program a population enough and you bombard them with a message, which can seem partly true, right? With this whole virus thing, we know it's real. But when you program them enough, then you can basically get them to do anything through fear, by fear. And so this is connected to my experience with this client this morning because a lot of people don't understand or don't know why this is happening and who's doing this and where they come from. So let's take it back to the very beginning because, there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, and believe me, I've gone down the rabbit hole, full down the rabbit hole, and I'm pretty careful about what I share with the public about what I think is happening. And so in terms of, who's doing this to us, I think this is why I was guided to have this experience with this client, because I want to share my belief about who's doing this and why, and way back from the beginning. So some of you, this is nothing new. Some of you, this is going to blow your mind, and you might think I'm completely crazy. But I ask you just to suspend disbelief and just sit with it and see if it resonates. And I think somebody, maybe it was you, Wendy, said that you just felt it was true. You just felt that you'd heard it before. And my kids were saying that to me because we talk about all this stuff. And I tell them, you don't have to believe what I believe, but I'm just sharing with you. And they say to me, my daughter and my son, they say, it feels true. I feel like it's true. They've said that at different times. So I've been reading, over the past few years, I've read a lot of different things about the true origins of humanity. And, we were told the story in public school that we come from Homo erectus, the Lucy, the apes, right? The caveman. And it doesn't make sense if you think about it. Like, where's that? How does that leap go from this, primitive creature to us, to humans, to Homo sapiens? there's a missing link there. It doesn't make sense. And when you read about it and say, scientists don't know. Well, maybe some of the scientists don't know, but somebody back down the line, in fact, a small group of people do know. And it was hidden from us. And so this goes way down into the Bible. And if you look in the book of Genesis, I have a Bible sitting over there. I'm not going to open it up, though, because I'll probably get bogged down. They actually talk about in the days of old, there were giants that ruled the earth. And they also mention the word Elohim. And the word Elohim means gods, plural. So we're getting clues here, right? But as we know, with what the Bible does, or what it's really the Roman Catholic Church took out parts of the Bible and changed it so we wouldn't get the full picture, the full story. But what happened with this past life regression this morning with the client was I have to protect her confidentiality, but she experienced a lifetime in which there were these tall beings, not human, but they looked human, and she was there way back, like hundreds of thousands of years ago, as the only human on Earth, when the Earth was just pristine. There was nothing, it was just this beautiful land. And they were, and she was basically like a pet, like a slave to them. And then they were experimenting on her and working with her DNA and trying to figure out how to, what to do with her. And so it was absolutely fascinating. And I took detailed notes, and it's very similar. And I asked her where, I did in the regression, you ask people questions, and I asked her where they were from, and she said Nibiru. And so she's intuitive. She knows about some of this stuff, but I asked her after. She didn't really know a lot about the Annunaki and the planet Nibiru, which is where they're from, and the Nephilim, were connected to the Anunnaki. But anyway, so I told her a little bit after, and then I said, okay, I'm going to have to talk about this. I think there's a reason this is happening, because I've been reading over the past 5 years, 6 years maybe, a lot about this. But like a lot of there's so much information out there, it's hard to know what's true. And here's what I've done. I've read multiple things, channeled information by Barbara Marciniak, Barbara Handclough. I've read The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drumbelow Melchizedek, which I highly recommend. And then a few other, I watched this series on Gaia by this guy named Matheus Di Stefano, who channels the Akashic Records. And of course, I go into the Akashic Records and have picked up on things, the halls of Amenti, which not many people know about, but that's a place where the sacred knowledge is stored. So it's been a process of just putting the pieces together over a few years. I see your question there, Elle. I'm going to get to that. I think probably yes, maybe yes and no, but I don't know. There's a lot of it's what we're doing. What we're trying to do here is piece together lots of clues from different places about who we are and what's the truth. But here, I said this in the description here, that what I believe is that this is what I believe today. This could change because I'm always getting new information and I don't know the full answer either. But what I believe today is that there's been multiple different multidimensional beings from different, universes, solar systems, star systems that have come to Earth over hundreds of thousands of years. Who were the first? I've heard different things. The Sirians, those from the Sirian star system. It seems like they were here, maybe one of the first ones here. And from the Sirian star system, there's different Sirius systems. There's more benevolent ones. There's more non-benevolent ones. So it seems like from what I've pieced together, that they've came here first, and we're trying to looking with at the beings that were here, and it seems like there were apes, and maybe they did some kind of hybrid. They did some hybrid work on their own DNA with the apes. However, then these beings called the Anunnaki, and the reason they're called Anunnaki is because there was this god named Anu, and they were the people of Anu. And so these are negative beings. They're service to self. They're not benevolent. And so they came, and there was all these wars, all these fights going on. They're just fighting. There's different beings that are going to different planets for different things. Maybe their home planet was inhospitable to life. They had to find a new one, which is, I think, the case with Nibiru, from what I remember. And so they came to Earth really looking to mine Earth for resources, primarily gold. And when they came here, they needed somebody to mine the gold for them. So they created this race called the Nephilim, from what I understand, from like a hybrid from the apes and from their own genetic Anunnaki DNA. Is it connected to the Sirian hybrid thing? Probably. There's all these missing elements that I don't have. But what I think then happened is we, as we are today, were basically descendants from these beings, from the Nephilim, who were, not nice, and we were used as the Nephilim, at least, and maybe maybe the Nephilim did their own genetic breeding with the high human hybrid as slaves, used as slaves to mine, to get resources for the planet, and so for these beings, I should say, from the planet. And then we go to the Egyptians, and there's all kinds of, and you can see in Egyptian pyramids and in the stone carvings they have, and in the stone drawings, pictures of giants, of really tall people next to really small people. And they're not always nice. They're forcing them to work. They're not. They're slaves, and that's why, because they were these Anunnaki. So from my understanding is that the Anunnaki were like the pharaohs of Egypt, but then the Sirians came back, and so they're like the Sirians and the Anunnaki were kind of battling, like at war a little bit. The Sirians being benevolent, loving, and that's when I think it was Akhenaten and Nefertiti, I think I'm getting it right, who were the elongated head, pharaohs in Egypt. And we've seen this. This is like actual fact. I remember taking art history in college, and they would say, oh, they had, these elongated skulls, but that's just because they would wrap them so tight that their skulls would get long. And I remember thinking, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, my head doesn't do that if I wrapped it long. And so there's actual evidence that that they just weren't human. These Nefertiti, and I think it was Akhenaten, were not human. They were Syrian, and they were good, benevolent, and they were these beings of light that came in to try to shift things. And then, of course, we have Lemuria and Atlantis, and the fall of Atlantis and the fall of human consciousness. So there's all these events happening. But the beginning of this was really, with the Anunnaki, creating this human hybrid, us. They don't teach us this in school. And that they dismantled our DNA. It's like we're supposed to have 12, I think it's 12. I could be getting this wrong. But they dismantled it so we couldn't really know, so they could control us. And through our emotions. And so we're seeing that still happening today. And then somebody asked in this group, and I'll just address this too, because I've been thinking about this, absorbing this information for a few years now. That how does this connect to the Roman Empire? Because a lot of what we're seeing today, in the United States as we know it, is in Western civilization as we know it, is directly from the Roman Empire and the capitalist system they created, which they stole from the Greeks, all the stuff from the Greeks, and just corrupted it. And really, I'm probably offending somebody by saying this, but I think it's true, unfortunately. And then, of course, there's the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, which is responsible for all kinds of nefarious, dark, evil things. But it comes from these Anunnaki beings, and so it's all connected. So why was there this gap, for thousands of years? And then the Romans, well, think who was there? Jesus, this ninth dimensional being, not human, or, came in maybe a human body, incarnate as a human, came on Earth to try to shift the consciousness, to bring in this beautiful light, to try to, anchor in the light. And of course, then the response was to really amp up the control, and who knows? There's different theories out there about, was Jesus. I've heard that there were actually two Yeshuas. One was a 12th dimensional being, and one was a ninth dimensional being. And that Jesus married Mary Magdalene. She was his wife, which I do believe is true. And they had children, which I do believe is true. And then there's some stuff about, well, maybe there was another, not the real Jesus was actually crucified, and he actually, the real Yeshua, the real Jesus, went off and fled and lived in some, country throughout his days. I don't really know about that, but we do know there's a lot of evidence, and this is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the books that were removed from the Bible, and I have something somewhere about the other books of the Bible. One of them is the Book of Mary Magdalene, that Jesus studied with the Essenes. The Essenes were the keepers of all of this knowledge of our true human origins, from the Annunaki, from the Nephilim, from these gods, who were, I believe, the Old Testament. People talk about there's the Old Testament, there's the New Testament. The Old Testament God is this like evil, this mean, not evil, but mean God that, brings, destruction on those who are sinners, Sodom and Gomorrah, all that stuff. What I think is that actually there wasn't a God at all. It wasn't what the New Testament God that Jesus talks about. It was actually the Anunnaki or the Nephilim. These were the ones doing these things. That's just my theory. So there's connection here. So with the Roman Empire, that's when they kind of amped things up, because they did not want Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, people to awaken with his light, and so they really amped it up. And when, and tried to manipulate all kinds of things with the Bible, and kind of used some of the information that, a lot of the information that Jesus shared, and put it in to try to, and tricks us. It messes with us. And that's how we see the traditional religions of, you're supposed to be punished, or God is, you're not good enough, and you have to go through this, priest or minister. You can't directly connect with God because you're not holy enough, all that stuff. Right? And women being just so dehumanized and removed, when in fact women carry that divine feminine seed of truth. So looking at some of the comments here, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of missing things that we just have to, somebody can do some more research on that, about who the Romans were and how they connected to the Anunnaki, and how it all goes back. I think it's hard to piece it together because so much of this information has been destroyed. So back to, where we are today. For thousands of years, through the Roman Empire, we were successfully, humans were successfully controlled, and they would keep us in a state of fear, and they would say, let them eat cake, like the Romans would actually pay people to stay at home, and they would pay people to like keep them just happy, and we're seeing that today. We're getting paid some countries are actually paying people to stay home. We're getting stimulus checks, right? So you start to notice there's a pattern that of trying to keep people placated so they don't see what's really going on. That's all changing. Me talking about something like this now, I'm doing this in this private group because I certainly am not ready to put it out to the world yet. And it's all, theories, of course, but I only share what I feel like a lot of this is true, and I wouldn't share it if I didn't. So having said that, I think, someday we should all get together and just talk about what we really think is going on, because often what happens is that we can piece it together. So yeah, I'm just looking at what people are commenting on. Yes, Roman rulers. Yeah, Julie, I've been reading that book you gave me, the Phoenician agenda. No, not the Phoenician, the Palladian Agenda by Barbara Hand-Clouse. So eventually, what happens is you start to read enough things, and you start to absorb it, And oh yeah, the British monarchy, all the people. Anyway, let me back up. You start to absorb it, and you start to connect the dots, and things start to make sense, and you start to see what's really going on. But it's hard to do, and a lot of people don't take the time to do it because it takes so long. But it's also just trusting your intuition of feels right. As for the reptilians, yeah, I think the reptilians are connected to the Anunnaki for sure, the evil ones. And I'm not going to get into all that, like about who the reptilians are. But what I personally believe is that, it's pretty obvious that all the ruling governments, all the monarchies, especially a lot of evil stuff going on with children, satanic rituals that these people do. Yes, very sad, very heartbreaking. A lot of evidence about that. And it's all, in terms of like our presidents and the rulers. Wow, I'm going into it. Who knows? How much do they know about all that? How much do they engage in it? My belief is that yes, Sitchin, thank you, Zachariah Sitchin, Jim Brady, thank you for saying that. He's the one that talked about the Anunnaki. How much do they? I think they probably know, but who knows who's engaged in all that? But it's definitely real. So let's see, what was the other? Yes. So they're all, they're the ones. Anytime you don't get this information until you get high up. So my grandfather was in the CIA. I've talked about this. One of them was high up. One of them wasn't as high up. They didn't. I think one of my grandfathers who was high up, the one who didn't, John Horton, my dad's father, didn't share a lot of this stuff. But he told me at one point, just so you know, money rules everything. In case you want to know how the world works, everything's ruled by money. And I remember being like, okay, but it comes back to money and power and greed and control, and that is the ego. And so it's all about vibration too. So nothing is as simple as it seems. We all have ego within us. We all have this darkness within us. We all have these seeds of these different races within us. Here's that for a thing, right? So to say like, oh, somebody's just a reptilian, I don't think, maybe they have more of that in them for sure. Some of them do. But I think we all have some of that within us. That's that ego. In the tarot, the ego is the devil, right? That's the devil card is ego, and there's another deck where it's interesting, without going full into the rabbit hole. But I think, yeah, there's only so much we can talk about in one evening, but the short of it is that these are the people who've been through this bloodline, who've been controlling the human. And a lot of us sort of incarnated in these human bodies are from other star systems, from the Pleiadians. That's who I connect with a lot. Sirian, Arcturian. I know, Roberta, you talk about the Arcturians a lot. Here to help, and so many children. We're here, and the children are just so activated. This client I had is very young, in her early 20s, and just unbelievable the things that she picks up on. Just very, very clear, intuitive, third eye opening stuff. Took me a long time to clear out my third eye and just see the things that I pick up on the things that I do. But we all can do it. We all have it. Just takes some time. So many of us have more and more people now who are incarnated in human bodies just are actually mostly from other star systems, and they haven't spent a lot of time on Earth, which is why so many, there's people think, autism and, I'm not going to get into that too much, but they think there's always something wrong with some of these kids. Well, maybe they're just different vibrations. They're just very different than what we're used to. And a lot of the young kids today, that's what's happening with the masks and the vaccines, trying to dampen their light because they know how strong and how powerful these starseed children are. So some people aren't going to like this, what I'm saying right here. I'm sure some people will leave the group when they hear it. But that is the agenda, is to dampen them and to try to really, it's like they don't want you, they want your children. They're trying to get to the children to bring them into this state of complete mind control through the mask wearing, then there's the vaccine thing, which is not even a real vaccine, it's quote vaccine, and then the whole vaccine passport insanity. That's what they're trying to do. But it's what's happening is that they're it's not succeeding because so many people are starting to awaken, and so it's almost like they're just getting sloppy. It's just so obvious. not, and it is. I do believe intuitively, and I've connected with this in the Akashic Records. How much will it take for people to wake up? How bad does it have to get? Apparently, it has to get this bad because the mind control, the conditioning is so deep. It is so deep, and it goes back generations. We've been programmed. We've been living in the Truman Show, right? Literally, like the movie, the Truman Show. They show us what they're doing in all the movies. They show us how it's working. All you got to do is connect the dots, the matrix. They show us. And but people were starting to come out of the clouds and see what's going on. So, but there's anyway, you guys all know this stuff. So, I don't think it'll be successful because I'm talking about this. You guys are aware of this. We're talking about this thousands of years ago. We would have been like put in, psychiatric institutions for being completely crazy. So, all right. I went way past my time, but I'm still going to do meditation to try to bring in some light. Okay. So let's close our eyes and take a deep breath in. And a slow exhale out. And as you breathe with this conversation we've had on our true human origins, I'd like you to really just remember or really process what it means to be human. So just taking these deep breaths. And feeling the power of the human body. This magical being that we are remembering that we are from the stars, that we are filled with light, that we are filled with divine powers, just like Jesus, just like other prophets that came around that time, Muhammad, the Buddha, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, so many other ascended masters and light beings who were on the planet, who've been on the planet, who were able to ascend, which means to move beyond ego and into their highest self. And that's what we're learning to do. And as you breathe, just begin to connect with light, allowing light to flow into the top of your head, activating the chakras, flowing through your body, up and down through your body, out through the bottoms of your feet, up through the tops of your head. Just feel this flow, this light work. Doing this every day will activate you. So just allow this light to flow for just a moment. And as it flows up your spine, which is the kundalini activation, and back down your spine, but especially going up, imagine there's a snake at the base of your spine that's been coiled up at the bottom because we've been in a slumber. The human has for thousands of years, and as we awaken, that snake is rising up. That snake is extending up through the spine. It's standing up straight, and its strength and its power is moving up through your spine and up through the strands of your DNA, reactivating your DNA, restructuring your DNA, healing and repairing all of our DNA. Feel this happening within your body. Feel yourself like an antenna out through the top of your head, your crown chakra, this light. Remembering that the universe works in vibrations, it works in energy. Everything is energy. And with this activation, you become this antenna that can receive the signals from your mothers and fathers, from your ancestors, from the stars, from the Arcturians, from the Pleiadians, from the Sirians, from the Lyrans, who are some of the original seeds of the human hybrid race. And receiving their signals. They love us. They're here to help us remember who we are. They're here to help us heal and remove, feel them removing from your body all the implants, all the devices that the negative intervening consciousnesses have put into us through manipulating our emotions, through intervening in our energy. Allow all that to be removed, one by one. Feel it being pulled out. Feel anything that doesn't belong being sucked out, drained, carved out like psychic surgery, which is painless, which is harmless. This takes trust. And with the light of the Christed One, which is within each one of us and around us, and with the light of the divine source of pure love, we know that when we are focusing and intending to connect with love, that is what we will connect with. Love and only love may enter our spheres. So just breathe as this junk is being removed from your body at every level of your mind, body, spirit, and soul. From this lifetime, from all other lifetimes on this planet and all other planets, in all dimensions, in all times. This is our time. Our time is now. Knowing that you can come back to this meditation and push pause and allow this clearing and removal to take place longer. But for now, we're going to bring in light, just allowing and intending all of the healing in the form of crystalline, cosmic, galactic sunlight and the rays of the different ascended masters, all the rainbow rays that activate every chakra, that balance your energy, that repair your DNA, that reprogram your cells. Just allow your body to soak this up. And feel the essence of love, knowing that you have free will and you have the ability, and it is important that you learn to love yourself unconditionally and love your body unconditionally and love all your mistakes and failures and triggers and outbursts and feelings of anger and jealousy and fear, and love all of those parts of you and forgive yourself. Just like we are learning to reparent ourselves, these are our true parents, our galactic loving parents who are here to wrap us in their arms of light and to receive us as their children, receiving that hug, the most loving, nurturing, warm hug that you can imagine. Receive that deeply right now. And allow this light, this through your heart, all of this healing to flow out to those who are still unconscious, to those who are still in fear, to those who are still in the slumber of mind control. Send that light to them, and to those who are suffering, and even to those controllers, the Annunaki, the reptilians, any of the other dark beings who are responsible for some of the evil being done, knowing they too have light, and they too can be forgiven, and they too can step back and be folded into the light. Allowing this light from each one of our hearts to be sent out to all of these souls. And seeing and feeling and bringing your awareness to the lighting up of one soul by one, as every human over time eventually will begin to awaken, as if it's a grid, a light grid, with light bulbs being turned on one by one. See each human awakening, seeing what's happening, understanding, beginning to question, beginning to illuminate, beginning to see, to see I am so much more. And I have power to create my life. And I have divine energy flowing within me that can help me create my life. I am not helpless. I am not controlled. I am not weak. I am powerful. I am filled with love. I am filled with source energy. I am God, as we all are, that pieces of that divine light. And as each human awakens, the planet begins to continue her ascension into the fifth dimension, crossing that rainbow bridge, each soul one by one, to accompany our planet, to accompany Gaia into that fifth dimensional space, wrapping those, even those who have yelled at us, who've called us names, who have tried ostracizing us, who have hurt us, all of those humans, wrapping them in light and inviting them to join us if it's part of their soul's purpose in this lifetime. With a heart filled with love and filled with joy and filled with welcoming and compassion. We're creating the new earth right now. And so you can take a deep breath in and a slow exhale and just begin to wrap yourself with light, bringing that light, that energy a little bit closer into you, coming into gratitude, bringing your hands in prayer position to your heart center, giving thanks to all the beings of light, of pure love, of activation, of awakening, of consciousness expansion who have been here with us this evening. And honoring and thanking yourself for saying yes to allowing this activation to occur. May we be guided, may we be supported, may we learn to love, to forgive, and to embrace our true nature as fifth dimensional beings of pure light. May it be so, and so it is. So you can open your eyes and begin to stretch out as we come back into consciousness. Well, that was powerful for me. Hopefully that was helpful for you in some way. I never know what is going to come through before I sat down for this meditation. I was asking my Pleiadian, Sirian guides especially to help guide me, and what was the they weren't going to tell me anything. I was like, I'd like to have some preparation of what I'm going to do and what I'm going to talk about, and they're just like, just trust, trust, trust. So yeah, it's that was powerful for me, and it's time for us to know, to remember. So I'll probably be talking about this more because once it starts, there's no going back. And I do this every Wednesday here in the Souls Gathering Together group. It's still on Facebook, yes, but until I can find something better where people are actually at, it'll be here. I'm glad it was powerful. Thank you all for that. Yeah, thank you for being here. I am going to be doing, I just decided this just a few days ago, offering an Akashic Records class if you want to learn how to read the Akashic Records, which is really how it's everything for me, how I've been able to come into this feeling of knowing and understanding, or I never really know 100%. I'm never 100% sure, but of just being more, having that stronger conviction of what's true. It's through the Akashic Records, and it's not just like I go in there all the time, but once you start going in, it's the Akashic Records is the dimension, it's the records of everything that's ever happened throughout human history, every situation throughout time. And once you start connecting with that consciousness, which is dimension really, and it's in our light bodies, it starts coming in like all the time. You just start to have, it's like you're starting to, remember things, and it starts to come in different places. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, and do readings for other people and just receive that guidance, I'm going to offer it this June, every other week, 6 classes, on Thursday late morning. My kids will be in camp, which is why I'm doing it. So here I'm posting the link, and yes, Sean, you did. I'm so glad. And this time I don't know if I've offered this class a few times, but I'm doing a certification. So if you want to learn how to do the readings like I do for people, which I do all the time, that's like the number one thing that people want from around the world, then I'll show you how to do it. So, no guarantee but if you're guided to the Akashic Records, I always trust that the right people are going to be in there. And something else that's happening next week, Heidi's here, hi Heidi, is that I'm meeting with the Soulful Work community. My dear business coach, Heidi Simons, who I think is listening, she's amazing. I could not do what I do without her support. She's like my therapist, and and gives me great business ideas. So we're going to be doing a gathering called Navigating 3D to 5D, and here at my house, little potlucky type thing, and we meet. That's we're just talking about how I've been doing that in my business, and it seems to be working pretty well. So, with the support of Heidi and with my own guides and the Akashic records and so on, and how you can do that. And maybe it's in creating a business, but just in our lives, especially with all these crazy personal conflicts and relationships with people, seeing things very differently as people are getting more stuck in 3D. Some people are moving into 4D. Some people are more and more in 5D, but there's a lot of 3D consciousness happening right now. So if you want to come join us for that gathering, we meet in person once a month. We meet virtually once a month, so we really meet twice a month. And I have all kinds of resources online for that. That about every month. There's a new topic every month, if you're interested in connecting with us more deeply. So, Wendy, it is only in the mornings. I can't do it I'm my evenings. It's just that's just how I've got to do it right now for my own sanity. I've been extremely busy and teaching this intuitive guide soulful work method program, which is what I've been doing most of the year. I end up planning it in the evenings. So just daytime for now. And maybe another, next year I might add an evening. Who knows? I don't really love doing stuff in the evenings, but yeah. So I will say though, if you want to do the class and you couldn't make it in the evenings, I always record it and you can watch it later. So, all right. This was way late, way longer than I intended, but there's so much to talk about. So, thanks for being here. Much love. Hold the high vibration. That's all that we can do. Keep rising above, bringing in that light, trying to forgive others for some of them, I start to think, some of them, they don't know what they're doing. And then I start to be like, well, how can you really not know what you're doing? It's kind of hard at this point. But the mind control goes so deep. And when you're programmed by fear, it's pretty shocking what you can do. So just trying to hold compassion and light for people. Well, we also speak our truth and say, this is not okay. Because that needs to be said in a way, in a tactful, loving way. Anyway, so I feel very hopeful about the future, about what's happening. This thanks to you all and to those of you here just holding down the light. Many blessings, much love. Thanks for being here. Bye.